Hi there guys, I'm Echo, this is my channel and this is also the first video in the American Resistance series where I will talk about how to resist a bad politician in a country and either block or slow down their attempt to overtake said country, in this case US, and the bad politician is Trump and company. Well, as a member of resistance, or more like the resistance as a whole, has two options, which I will explain using a quite weird metaphor. Let's say that you have a hypothetical substance, object, or whatever that you have to apply high temperature, at least, or even high pressure, for it to be either transformed, destroyed, or whatever. And you're in a kitchen. So what would most normal people do? They would probably take a pot, fill it with water, put the thing inside, maybe take a lid and put it on top of the pot, and boil the hypothetical thing. Or they might use a pressure cooker and put it inside and stew it at higher temperatures. That's what people do with pressure cookers most of the time. Or do something crazy and, for example, take the pressure cooker, seal all of its backup vents that prevent the pressure from rising too much, seal it with epoxy glue, and tape it over with a duct tape, put water and the thing inside, close it, and seal it with epoxy glue, put it into oven and crank up the temperature real high. And for example, our old oven in our house has the maximum operating temperature of about 350 degree Celsius, which is, I don't know how much, but I guess quite a lot in freedom or degree of Fahrenheit. Freedom degrees. I guess it's quite a lot because just I don't know how degree of Fahrenheit work, but I guess it's still quite high. And in the second scenario, the pressure cooker, the lid would either be launched off it, or it would just simply rupture, destroying the oven in the process, and the kitchen would probably take some damage. And well, to spice things up, after the pressure cooker will explode and destroy both the oven and itself, then take, I don't know, a flamethrower and burn the hypothetical substance to ashes. And the kitchen will probably burn down too, but, well, you probably don't care all that much at that point. So, to explain what I was talking about right here, well, this hypothetical substance is the current government, which you want to dethrone, make it step down, or just remove it. You are, or the resistance is the person, the kitchen is the country, and the various things that can be used to heat up the substance are the various methods of resistance. Now, the resistance has two forms in general, and one of them is just peaceful resistance. The resistance that's, in the metaphor, the normal way of heating the substance, and just peaceful resistance. That's the ideal way, because statistically speaking, peaceful protests are about twice as effective as violent protests, and when at least 3.5 50% of the country's population joins the protests and the resistance, the resistance has already enough power to force some changes. And that's just pure statistics. And not only that, it's safer, there is much less risk of something going absolutely south and country ending in a, I don't know, civil war or just something really bad happening. And it's an ideal scenario, and I'll discuss that most of the time. But there's also the second option, the bonkers option, where you do absolute nonsense with the pressure cooker just to crank up the pressure and temperature. That is a violent resistance or insurgency. And the violent resistance is not only less effective, but also harder to execute, and doing such stuff is advised only in scenarios when doing otherwise proves to be really ineffective. And it's in just dethroning the government in that scenario often might result in a civil war or just absolute nonsense, or even the resistance being crushed because it antagonizes itself. Well, in that case, it's not really a resistance anymore, it's insurgency, and it's violent, and you can... I'm talking about resistance that is kind of similar to various terrorist groups, or maybe, I don't know, Hamas or ISIS or Al Qaeda. Just that's probably the worst form, the most violent form of violent resistance slash insurgency, and the probably the best form in which this could happen is just people being more armed and maybe using Molotov cocktails and stuff in protests. And I will also talk about this form of resistance, but again, I will start right here, right now, with a disclaimer that this is not advised to do unless absolutely necessary, and that it could end very badly. For example, it could, again, as I am now repeating myself all over, it could result in the resistance antagonizing itself, and just imagine the resistance does some really bad thing, maybe kills some leaders, and the current government says, people, look, do you see the resistance? They are thugs, they are bad people, they are criminals. Look, how did they just murder some of our good leaders? They are going after you and they want to steal your stuff, I don't know, kill your dog, take away your infant son and raise it as another terrorist. And the resistance could be antagonized at that point, and the common people might say, well, I don't like the current regime much, but the resistance is worse. So they join the regime and the resistance is basically done. So I'll discuss, my English is trash, but that doesn't really matter. I will discuss some forms of violent resistance because, or various things that usually happen in insurgency or violent resistance, because they might be helpful if something goes wrong or just stuff starts happening. Because Trump, even though he's similar to some other figures, which I will discuss in an upcoming video, well, he's kind of different than the others, and if the peaceful resistance, which is what I advocate for, if it succeeds, the Trump regime might got to a point where it just says we have nothing to lose, and really bad stuff will start happening, and that's when things that are usually done by insurgents will come in handy. So, again, the best way to do things, statistically proven, is peaceful resistance, peaceful protest, just standing there, chanting stuff. And for example, the best example of peaceful resistance, now from Czech history, because I am Czech and we in the school mostly focus on Czech history, is the Velvet Revolution of 1989. Similar revolutions happened in another Eastern Bloc countries like Poland, the Baltics, and so on. And the Velvet Revolution toppled the communist regime that held the country, the Czechoslovakia, hostage for 40 years in few months. It started as relatively small student protests, which were brutally dispersed by riot police, and these students, also powered by dissidents like Václav Havel, they just the people saw what the regime is, and because the regime was quite weak at the time, because Soviet Union was again in very bad shape, and the Czech economy and stuff, we weren't doing all of the good, so the resistance was successful. People stopped going to work for a week and stuff, and the resistance, because it got enough people joined the resistance. The communists realized that now they have two options: either leave the power to the resistance and step down and save the country from a war, or start a civil war, which they would probably lose because the resistance was quite powerful at the time. So that's it. The brutal communist regime in Czechoslovakia got toppled in few months, and I am talking about a regime that killed a lot of people, a lot of political prisoners, and probably the most well known is Milada Horáková. And fun fact, Albert Einstein himself wrote a letter to the Czechoslovakian government, communists at the time, to release Milada Horáková. Guess what commies did? I guess that Klement Gottwald probably took the letter from Albert Einstein, wrapped tobacco inside of it, and just use it as Russian papyroska, the notorious long Russian cigarette from low quality tobacco and newspaper paper. The regime that slaughtered many people and did unimaginable stuff, unimaginable oppression in our lands, went down in flames in a short time compared to the long 40 years. 40 years, that's from birth to nearly retirement at the time, and my grandparents lived through it. Basically, imagine being born into communist regime and the regime falling only when you are almost a grandfather. That's right. So again, even though I probably would like to see the Trump regime or the whole administration just being lined up in front of a wall and shot with machine gun, that's not happening. Just the violent resistance is, even though many would think, including myself, that it's just the quickest and best way how to do it, it's not only ineffective, but it could set the country into an even bigger mess than the country is in now. And a recent example of this happening was last year in December in Syria. And this, I don't think this has to be done to remove Trump from power in America as of today. And it's not even a good thing to do as long as peaceful resistance is an option. I don't know how to pronounce it properly. Statistics confirm that being peaceful, and if right police beats you up, just call in more members. Just the best way to do it is to really get enough people and just stomp the whole Trump regime, because I refuse to call them a presidential administration, because the things they are doing right now, especially in regards to Ukraine, that's just unpresidential. Also, the stuff they are doing to the American economy, that's not a regular administration. That's just clowns inside of the White House, and they are turning it into a circus slash a Russian spy base at quite a pace. So, again, I repeat, for the next 4 years, it's protests. Just paint some stuff on a banner and go protest. And I'll talk about how the Trump regime works and what you have to do in order for the resistance, for it to not be crushed, because of course the resistance, even though it can get really powerful, it needs certain things which the regime can remove, and then the resistance is basically powerless. So I guess that's it for the first video. We have summed up the two options the resistance has: the peaceful resistance and the insurgency, and the fact that the insurgency option is in probably every way worse than peaceful resistance, as long as the resistance is an option. And you've probably learned few useless history facts if you don't live in Czech Republic or don't care about history. And, well, good luck, guys. I fare quite well. I have quite a lot of free time today. I hope you are doing even better, and see you next time.